We're here today with Lana Atkinson, a professor in the Political Science Department at UNM, and Adrian Oglesby, the director of the Eton Transboundary Resources Center at the UNM Law School. Thanks for joining us today. Adrian, we're going to start with you.
Okay.
Been involved as a water attorney in New Mexico for over a decade. What are the most important water issues when it comes to the governor's race that you'd like to see as part of the conversation this election season?
Well, our governor's going to have to hit the ground running on water. We're coming out of an incredible year of low water supplies, and if we have another bad winter, next year is going to be unprecedented. So really showing strong leadership on water right out of the gate is going to be critical. We've got this drought situation, which is definitely going to be affecting our farmers next year, our outdoor recreational industry as well. And then we also have the looming threat of the Texas v. New Mexico lawsuit down in the lower Rio Grande that's pending before the Supreme Court right now. That's going to be a critical challenge that a new governor needs to take on. We need to get that thing settled and taken care of as soon as possible so we have some certainty about our water supply on our iconic Rio Grande River.
What about beyond the Rio Grande? Are there other issues around the state with water that you see as kind of needing some attention?
Oh, you bet. Every corner of the state has a water issue that needs attention. Whether it's the Eastern New Mexico pipeline that the state has been trying to get built for years to serve the communities that are relying on the Ogallala Aquifer that is quickly being depleted, including Cannon Air Force Base, which is another economic engine here in New Mexico. We've got the San Juan Chamo River, which is tied into the Colorado system. There are predicted shortages on the Colorado. How that affects us here in New Mexico is yet to be seen, but we need to be cognizant of that. And of course, you've done a tremendous amount of coverage on the Gila River as well. What kind of decisions are going to affect those local communities and the health of that river in the future are going to be determined by the next governor.
Sounds like a lot going on.
That's right.
A lot we should be talking about. Lana, are gubernatorial candidates talking about these issues on the campaign trail this year?
I'm talking a little bit about it. It's sort of, lower priority than the big issues, the economy, education, especially is a big hot issue. The environment is certainly an issue for New Mexico, but it's not a top issue.
Mm-hmm. So why don't environmental issues tend to come up in campaigns unless candidates are asked specific questions? We have this big report from the IPCC that just came out this week looking at the severity of climate change impacts. We have the ongoing drought. Why don't these issues rise to the top, do you think?
I think because they're very long-term issues and more things are on fire that are very close by, and those seem like issues that have been on the burner for a very long time, so they seem like they're ongoing on the back burner. So it's hard to get voters in particular, large segment of voters excited about them, to sort of pressure the politicians to focus on those issues.
Mm-hmm. So how do you think environment issues can be something that drives people to the polls? How can those issues rise up to gain enough attention from candidates, do you think? Adrian, do you have thoughts on how that?
Well, we certainly see them rise to the polls as they become crises. We've been very fortunate this year that we didn't experience, mega wildfires here in New Mexico. Both candidates are talking actively around watershed restoration. That's a popular concept across all political stripes. I think if we had had a fire, you would have been hearing them talk much more about it. Both are talking about water, of course not as much as you mentioned as economy and other issues, education included, but both of them do have water platforms out there and recognize water as being a critical issue. I think there are a lot of people out there who vote on water issues, especially those folks who are in the agricultural industries and those folks who are really engaged in water planning around the state.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to add on to that?
Well, I think it's an issue where in many ways, I wonder how the candidates really differentiate themselves. Is there real ideological differences? I mean, everybody can get around issues of, we need to protect our water, we need to protect, our safety, our health. So, where do we really find distinctions between the candidates that make them sort of, distinguished, that make them opportunities for choices in this area? And I'm not sure.
Right. So As New Mexico sort of gains more independent and decline to state voters, do you think that affects, I think Democrats have traditionally considered environment issues to be a part of their platform, and Republican candidates sort of have a different view on that. Where do independent or decline to vote state or decline to state voters fit in?
Well, independent voters typically are not very active voters, so they're sort of, they don't want to be as involved in the system. In fact, they are the least likely to participate, even if they are registered. So I don't see many strong effects. People talk a lot about the rise of independents, but there's a lot of institutional reasons why they're rising. I don't think they're a big force or will be a big force in the future in terms of politics. They're not as active as people who are really in the parties and interested in these particular issues.
Mm-hmm. So if everyday voters, if environment issues maybe don't rise to the top for everyday voters, but these issues are really important, how do people move the needle on some of these issues, whether it's water, climate, energy? Where can the change really happen, do you think?
A moment ago I mentioned state water planning. We have a fairly anemic state water planning process, and the regional water planning process in particular has been done very quickly in the past. If we look at Colorado, for example, there are a lot of other states that have much more robust water planning efforts. In Colorado, they have ongoing roundtable discussions happening in every basin, and those are supported with funding for projects that are developed by those local folks, allowing our local communities to get engaged in making water decisions rather than being a more paternalistic top-down kind of system. I think is where the action is. And of course, all water issues are local at the end of the day. Where you sit determines your view and success and how you manage water. So letting the local communities have a stronger voice in what projects are built and proposed, what is conserved and what's exploited, I think that would go a long way to getting people to the polls.
Mm-hmm. So looking at the last campaign finance reports from this last reporting period, there's a lot of oil and gas money in particular that goes into campaigns. Chevron, for example, raised thousands of dollars for state legislative candidates, and also $2 million for a PAC running ads in favor of the Republican candidate for State Land Commission. That seems like a lot of money and interest for what feel like pretty localized races. Is that a lot of money, and is that typical?
It is a lot of money, and it is more typical than less typical, especially since Citizens United, we've seen a lot more money going in, a lot more very focused advertising by different groups. So this is sort of, yes, this is the way things are.
And how effective are ads in getting people to maybe vote in a way that doesn't align with their core beliefs or their best interest? Like, do ads really drive people to be voting?
Ads help to distinguish candidates, so that's when they become important, when they help to, clarify positions, or they create stop and think conditions for voters, because when voters go down ballot, they're pretty much basing their decision usually on their partisanship or some other heuristic, the gender or ethnicity of the candidate, whatever they can glean from the limited information on the ballot. And so ads and the sort of noise that candidates make really push voters to think about things that they haven't thought of before. So ads do give us a focusing attention. They help set an agenda about what we should be thinking about. If they, raise to a level of a crisis, or they point out, particular issues with the candidate, it may create a stop and think condition for us and go, well, wait a minute, do I want to vote for a candidate who is, espousing that particular view, or maybe is funded by a particular interest group? So those kinds of things do affect decision making.
Right. So looking ahead to whoever is the next governor and to the next legislative session, what do you see can be done the most sort of critical issues that need to be addressed by the governor and the legislature in the coming year?
Well, I think one of the first things that needs to be dealt with is the staffing of our agencies. We've seen in the water world in particular, we've seen the Interstate Stream Commission has sort of crumbled under this last administration. There are questions about who's really in charge on water. We need smart, ethical people, hardworking folks to get into these positions as quickly as possible across all state agencies. And one of the core elements to getting that done is fixing our state personnel office and how we hire people. Getting that done will then allow us to get the right people in place to lead all the other agencies. So I think that's really a critical piece, that human infrastructure piece.
Right. Lana, any final thoughts on that?
There's so many things on the agenda, but this first session with the new governor, it's going to be really important to move forward on these particular items as fast as possible. This is a real opportunity with the new governor to make changes along all kinds of lines. So it's really a critical year for our legislature.
Right. Well, thank you both so much for helping us understand these issues today.
Thank you.
Thank you.